Sometimes great movies don't need a sequel, and sometimes they deserve one and never get it. From rumored projects like District 10 to Edge of Tomorrow 2, these are some of the biggest sci-fi classics that somehow still haven't gotten a sequel.
Live, die, repeat, again. Here's why you haven't seen Edge of Tomorrow 2, and why you might not for a long time yet. Tom Cruise isn't just one of the reigning kings of the box office. In recent years, the actor has also proven himself king of the box office revival, pumping fresh blood into his own decades-old franchises, with sequels that have garnered praise and raked in returns across the globe. In 2018, the sixth Mission Impossible film became the series' most lucrative, bringing in nearly $800 million worldwide.
I am the storm.
In 2022, Cruise one-upped himself with Top Gun: Maverick, which earned an astounding $1.48 billion at the global box office. The 60-year-old action star has clearly got the juice, and the only question now is where he'll apply his cinema-saving stardom next. He's already set to return to the role of Ethan Hunt again in this year's Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, but what comes after that? When it comes to returning to old stomping grounds, there's one Cruise film that seems like a natural choice for a sequel: Edge of Tomorrow. Sometimes called Live, Die, Repeat, this 2014 film stars Cruise and Emily Blunt as two military leaders tasked with helping to save the world from aliens. Their mission is interrupted and complicated when Cruise's character, Major Bill Cage, gets caught in a time loop after exposure to alien blood. The film was well received, and SlashFilm's own review called it a movie that takes a rewarding time travel conceit and builds upon that construct in a way we've never seen. Despite not making as much of a splash as expected in America, Edge of Tomorrow was a moderate financial success upon release, with a global box office gross of $370 million against a budget of $178 million. Those aren't Top Gun numbers by any means, but with Cruise's knack for punching up sequels, they're enough to warrant a second installment. The cast and crew apparently agreed as well. In 2016, a sequel was announced with race screenwriters Joe Shrapnel and Anna Waterhouse reportedly attached to the script and director Doug Liman returning behind the camera. The project has since seen further script changes, with rewrites from both Jez Butterworth and Matthew Robinson over the years. In the 6 years since it was first announced, an Edge of Tomorrow sequel has failed to materialize, but that hasn't stopped the cast and crew from talking up the prospect of another chapter. In 2021, Blunt told Entertainment Weekly that she had read a script that was in really great shape, while way back in 2016, Lyman told IGN that the follow-up film is going to revolutionize how people make sequels. The first Edge of Tomorrow film was a complex, special effects-heavy time travel story, and it sounds like the sequel would be equally ambitious. In 2021, Blunt spoke about the future of the film in an interview with Howard Stern, and even worried that it might be too expensive.
Honestly, I think the movie's too expensive.
Is that what it is?
I just don't know how, I don't know how we're going to do it.
The actress noted that she, Cruise, and Lyman would each still love to do the movie, but that it's difficult to align everyone's schedules. In addition to budgetary and scheduling concerns, Blunt seemed to indicate that the film industry, at the time impacted by COVID-19, is changing, and maybe not in a way that makes the sequel viable.
Honestly, I think we need to figure out what is the next roadmap for the kinds of films that people want to make.
Lyman, meanwhile, seems confident in the idea behind the Edge of Tomorrow sequel, but says it needs both its stars in order to get it off the ground. In 2021, he told Collider, "If you can get Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt to commit to the movie, it's going to happen." If both Blunt and Lyman have expressed interest and cited scheduling problems, it might be up to the third side of the triangle to make a second Edge of Tomorrow happen: Tom Cruise. The actor has had a busy schedule lately. In addition to the upcoming 2-part Mission Impossible sequel, Cruise is reportedly planning to make a movie with Lyman on the International Space Station. If Cruise comes back down to Earth long enough to film a second Edge of Tomorrow, Blunt returns as well, and the project isn't too expensive, it sounds like the film may be a done deal. But those are some pretty big ifs. In the meantime, Lyman says the idea for the second film is one that would center its stars with a character-driven sequel. He told Collider, "I get sometimes a sequel just has to have more firepower or more explosions, but no visual effect is going to top what you're going to get from a great scene performed by Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt." Denis Villeneuve's take on Dune was easily one of the most anticipated films of 2021. But it wasn't the first time a brilliant filmmaker adapted Frank Herbert's complex sci-fi novel for the screen. After cult director Alejandro Jodorowsky planned an ambitious version that fell apart, David Lynch experienced similar difficulties bringing Dune to life. Lynch was not given final cut, and the film failed to earn back its budget following harsh reviews. It seems that time has broadened the palette of moviegoers, and like much of Lynch's work, Dune has been the subject of critical reappreciation.
The sleeper has awakened!
Lynch's meticulous world-building and the movie's idiosyncratic characters were a novelty among the colorful, crowd-pleasing sci-fi epics of the early 80s. Dune was also the film debut of frequent Lynch collaborator Kyle MacLachlan. The rookie actor added naivete to the role of Paul Atreides, a duke's son thrust into violent political chaos following the expansion of the evil Spacing Guild. Lynch's plans to adapt Dune's sequel, Dune Messiah, were dropped after the movie's poor reception. Since Dune's flop, Lynch has yet to make another sci-fi blockbuster. Perhaps if he'd had the creative control he initially desired, the genre as a whole would be radically different. Tom Cruise has starred in many of the best-known science fiction films of the 21st century, including Minority Report, Edge of Tomorrow, and War of the Worlds. But 2013's post-apocalyptic mystery, Oblivion, is frequently forgotten. Directed by Tron legacy filmmaker Joseph Kosinski, Oblivion is an adaptation of the director's own graphic novel of the same name. It is a thoughtful, imaginative exploration of memory and loneliness that deserves more attention. Cruise stars as Jack Harper, a technician who operates a remote base on the ruins of Earth after an alien race ravaged the planet 6 decades prior. Harper's only companion is his communications officer, Vicka Olsen, played by Andrea Riseborough. Harper becomes aware of the real reason why humanity retreated from the planet when he's captured by a criminal syndicate led by Malcolm Beach, a former soldier played by Morgan Freeman. Beach informs him that a secret society of scavengers remains on Earth. Kosinski is an underrated director who creates stunning visuals, and Oblivion has an intriguing story that's on par with its groundbreaking production design and visual effects. Cruise's performance is sensitive and restrained, and while the film's plot is wrapped up neatly, Oblivion contains an entire universe that could have easily been explored in future installments. Directed by Saw star Leigh Whannell, Upgrade was one of the most pleasant surprises in recent memory. It's a cyberpunk action thriller that manages to blend horror, suspense, dark comedy, philosophy, and a revenge fantasy into a unique and enjoyable experience. While its universe is not dissimilar to the ones in films like Blade Runner or RoboCop, Upgrade's original plot made it a breath of fresh air at a time when so many sci-fi films are based on existing material. In a future run by an over-reliance on technology, mechanic Gray Trace, played by Logan Marshall Green, prefers old-fashioned craftsmanship. However, when his wife Asha, played by Melanie Vallejo, is killed by a gang of ruthless criminals and he's beaten and left immobilized, Trace undergoes cybernetic surgery in order to stay alive. As a result, his actions are now guided by the AI program STEM, voiced by Simon Maiden. Trace learns that STEM can boost his physical abilities, turning the wounded man into a ruthless assassin. The two consciousnesses share the same body as they work together to track down the killers who murdered Asha.
Wait. Now, while you have the advantage.
Combining satire with pulpy action, Upgrade is a complete blast. Its ambiguous ending is brilliant, and while Whannell has stated that the film is meant to stand alone, producer Jason Blum has been developing a spin-off television series. Disney's first PG-rated movie is completely unlike the family-friendly adventure films the studio was known for making. The Black Hole is a meditative, experimental space epic, closer in style to 2001: A Space Odyssey than Freaky Friday, containing themes about mankind's search for a godlike figure. With innovative visual effects that still look good today, The Black Hole is a gorgeous slow burn that features a great score from composer John Barry. The Black Hole follows the crew of the interstellar spacecraft USS Palomino, led by Robert Forster's character, Captain Dan Holland. Holland and his crew of astronauts find a black hole that contains a gate to a vessel lost 20 years prior. It's a discovery with serious personal stakes, as the crew's science officer, Dr. Kate McCrae, played by Yvette Mimieux, lost her father on the doomed craft. However, not everything is as it seems. As the Palomino crew investigates the old ship, the mysteries begin to pile up. The Black Hole may have received a mixed reception upon release, but over time, it's become appreciated as a fascinating philosophical odyssey disguised as a Disney family adventure. Its influence is still felt today. Christopher Nolan recalls the film as a childhood favorite. Unfortunately, a sequel never came to be, and plans to mount a remake were halted when once again the black hole proved to be too dark.
Our mission's finished, Alex.
Following the runaway success of Pirates of the Caribbean, which resurrected the pirate movie, Disney tried to revitalize other genres that had fallen by the wayside. Its attempts to create another action-adventure franchise included the video game adaptation Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, the techie sci-fi sequel Tron Legacy, and the revisionist western The Lone Ranger. However, their strongest effort was the pulpy sci-fi epic John Carter. Based on Edgar Rice Burroughs' classic Barsoom novels, John Carter follows a Civil War veteran played by Taylor Kitsch, who is whisked away to Mars and forced to compete in gladiatorial combat against representatives of competing alien nations. Directed by Andrew Stanton, the man behind Finding Nemo and Wall-E, it's an immersive visual action spectacle. John Carter was in development hell for decades, turning out to be one of the most expensive films ever made. Despite its budget, it was also one of the biggest box office bombs of all time. Stanton lamented that the poor showing at the box office nipped the would-be film series in the bud, as the underrated film left plenty of room to adapt other classic John Carter storylines. Chronicle is one of the best found-footage movies ever made, successfully reinventing the superhero origin story through creative filmmaking techniques. It's a surprisingly touching coming-of-age story about outsiders who discover their identities through superpowers, which evokes sympathy for both its heroes and villains. After discovering a strange object in a field, teenagers Andrew, Steve, and Matt develop enhanced psychic abilities and begin tracking their growth on camera. Steve, played by Michael B. Jordan, is class president and a popular member of their high school community. Matt, played by Alex Russell, is a philosophical outsider trying to reintegrate into mainstream life. Andrew, played by Dane DeHaan, is extremely reclusive and has a very troubled home life. At first, the teens use their new powers to pull pranks and become popular in school. But Andrew soon starts trending down a darker path. DeHaan's fantastic performance depicts complex mental health issues in intimate detail. It would be interesting to see more of this world, and although a sequel was announced, director Josh Trank is not interested in returning. Still, no matter who ends up leading the project, if it even happens, another superhero story in the Chronicle universe has a lot of potential. In 1997, writer-director Luc Besson made The Fifth Element, an idiosyncratic space opera that's developed a cult fan base. 20 years later, he did the exact same thing with Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. Besson's hyperkinetic style and cartoonish visuals may not be for everyone, but for those who appreciate his unique voice, this adaptation of Pierre Christin's science fiction comics Valerian and Laureline is one of the most imaginative space epics in recent memory. Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets establishes a future in which alien races from across the universe coexist peacefully, thanks to the establishment of Alpha, a traveling galactic metroplex that's home to a governing body of representatives from different planets. Alpha is also the home of a vast international marketplace, but the symbol of unity is threatened by sinister terrorists. Special operatives Valerian, played by Dane DeHaan, and Laureline, played by Cara Delevingne, are called in to investigate the threat.
Handsome, intelligent,
modest,
brave,
suicidal,
determined,
pig-headed,
faithful.
To yourself.
Yeah, and to you, you're my partner.
As per usual for Besson, Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets drew a mixed critical reception. And the $180 million movie only drew in $220 million worldwide. Unfortunately, that likely doomed the possibility of a potential franchise. But Besson indicates that the avid fan reception could lead to his planned sequels. For fans who were disappointed by the disastrously cheesy Judge Dredd film starring Sylvester Stallone, Dredd was a welcome revival of the titular character. This 2012 reboot was much more true to its source material, the 2000 AD comics, which have been in production since 1977. Dredd provided a gory, morally nuanced action spectacle reminiscent of 80s classics like RoboCop. Its inventive use of 3D and its commentary on police procedures make Dredd a unique entry in the modern comic book movie canon. Karl Urban inhabits the title role as the masked judge, jury, and executioner who dispenses justice in the futuristic dystopian metroplex Mega City 1.
I am the law.
Tasked with the training of the next judge, a psychic played by Olivia Thirlby, Dredd is forced to bring his new partner on a mission to stop an insane criminal syndicate testing experimental drugs with deadly side effects. Since the Judge Dredd comics have been around for over 4 decades, there's a wealth of potential storylines from the character's history that could be used for sequels. Dredd was unfortunately a financial disappointment, but Carl Urban has indicated that its growing cult status may open the room for a television spin-off. While a series would be exciting, the immersive visuals of Dredd make a cinematic follow-up a more compelling option. Galaxy Quest isn't just a treat for avid Star Trek fans. It contains one of the best depictions of fan culture in cinema. Often, films showing devotees of a geeky franchise resort to dismissive stereotypes. But Galaxy Quest treats fandom with sensitivity, delving deep into the nuanced relationship viewers have with the stars of their favorite series. In a time where fandom is often characterized as toxic, Galaxy Quest is refreshingly positive. Galaxy Quest follows a group of fictional TV stars portrayed by Tim Allen, Sigourney Weaver, Alan Rickman, Tony Shalhoub, and Daryl Mitchell. After their TV series is canceled, the quintet frequently appear together at fan conventions. However, these squabbling, temperamental actors are forced to show true heroism when they discover that many elements of their show have been brought to life by real aliens.
They designed those controls after watching you. Pick her out.
Right. Okay. Right.
The team must work together when the villainous warlord Saris, played by Robin Sachs, targets their ship. Given all the changes fandom, media, and Star Trek itself have seen since the release of Galaxy Quest, a sequel would have plenty of material to explore. Although Tim Allen suggests that a script was ready before Rickman's passing, and rumors about a television series continue to persist, nothing's come of it yet. This beloved sci-fi comedy classic deserves another installment. Serenity came as a welcome conclusion to the acclaimed sci-fi series Firefly, which was famously canceled by Fox in 2002. Creator Joss Whedon folded many of his concepts for later seasons into Serenity, a feature film that continued the story. Despite the deaths of some beloved characters, Serenity is the satisfying end to a series many thought they would never see. The film was intended to be the first of a trilogy that would continue the adventures of Captain Malcolm Reynolds, played by Nathan Fillion, but plans were scrapped after the film bombed financially. The audience has only grown as new fans have discovered the series over the years, and while spin-off novels, comics, and role-playing games have emerged, the space western universe has the potential to continue with more cinematic installments. Serenity leaves the door open for more storylines, as the totalitarian government body known as the Alliance continues to be a threat. Many of the key storylines addressed in the film, including psychic fugitives similar to the crew's River Tam, played by Summer Glau, could be incorporated. Showrunner Tim Minear has hinted that there's studio interest in a revival, and uniting the original cast could satisfy its ever-growing fanbase. District 9 hasn't stopped capturing the hearts and minds of audiences around the world. But what of its rumored sequel, now 14 years in the making? While a follow-up to District 9 rested on the film's box office success, a worldwide gross of $210 million quickly made that a non-issue. Director Neil Blomkamp started suggesting a possible sequel before the original film had even opened, and between 2009 and 2012, both he and star Sharlto Copley expressed their hopes for a follow-up. But as District 9 reached theaters, Blomkamp was already committed to finishing an unrelated script, which would become his controversial 2013 feature, Elysium, casting Copley as one of the film's villains.
I'll get you! Are you bleeding? You must get that looked at!
Blomkamp then directed his 2015 sci-fi film, Chappie, another divisive yet moderate success. Through the next several years, rumors continued to swirl about the future of the characters Vickis van der Merwe and Christopher Johnson, while Blomkamp went on to other projects, canceled entries for the Alien and RoboCop franchises, his Oat Studios short film collection, and the religious horror sci-fi film Demonic. In August 2023, bolstered by the pre-release buzz around Blomkamp's newest film, Gran Turismo, Copley and Blomkamp addressed the possibility of creating District 10. Copley and Blomkamp have offered few specifics about what they have in mind for any follow-ups to District 9, with Blomkamp at one point suggesting he might even create a prequel instead. According to Copley, as of 2022, they've both completed early drafts of District 10. But he remained cagey on any specific details. Copley also hinted in that interview that the story could rely on current socio-political events that Blomkamp wasn't ready to address, but he might be up to the task in the months after Gran Turismo hits theaters. Blomkamp, meanwhile, has added District 9 co-writer Terry Tatchell to the pre-production mix. A 2021 interview with IGN suggested that Blomkamp is looking to a specific but unidentified event in American history from which to build a new politically themed sci-fi movie, rather than revisit the apartheid scene in District 9. How that connects with Copley's hints isn't clear, but it leaves everything on the table. From America's contentious history of slavery, its troubled attitude towards immigration, and its flirtations with authoritarian leadership. The biggest thing fans seem to want from District 10 is the return of Christopher after he's made contact with the rest of his people. The chain reaction from that event would see the transformed Vicus at the mercy of Christopher and whatever forces at his back, benign or otherwise. Assuming District 10 is still Vicus's story to some extent, with the working title suggesting that the heart of the story would unfold in this new district, we might even see Vicus struggling with his wishes to ever be human again. Vicus has been in his alien form for a long time, and while his wife loves and misses him, she seems to be the only one. So if the aliens make a better offer, who knows what will happen? As to the rest of the story, what the aliens will think of how Earth has treated its people is an obvious hook, along with a look at the aliens' actual social hierarchy.
We have stranded on Earth, and this colony is basically the workers.
But there's an outside chance that District 10 will focus on a Vicus that's been left behind with the rest of the denizens of his district. That could turn the sequel into an underdog fight for acceptance and better treatment, maybe even an Amistad for aliens. Vicus, with his knowledge of both species, could be a perfect focus here. As Copley is already invested in shaping a final script with Blomkamp, it's safe to assume that he and his feckless character Vicus will return. Further assuming that any part of the story deals with another alien arrival, Jason Cope, the man behind Christopher, is also likely to return. Vanessa Haywood, who plays Vicus's wife Tanya, is another safe probability. Beyond that, District 9 had a fairly high death toll, and with the typical risks of corporate turnover, the hierarchy of the munitions group, Multinational United, might undergo a lot of change before returning. That said, it's possible that MNU's CEO, played by William Allen Young, hung on to his seat in the aftermath of the Vicus incident. However, it's fairly unlikely that the Nigerian gangs will reappear in a similar fashion, due to the controversial real-world response to their depiction as criminals and cannibals in District 9. Fans have been chomping at the bit to see District 9's plot threads tied up since 2009. It's not hard to do a Reddit search and find fresh discussion threads every few weeks noting, in awe, how well the movie holds up, while also expressing an eagerness for more. There's often added frustrations at the projects Blomkamp didn't land, and scripts that could have blended his style with other franchises these same fans know and love. Blomkamp's abandoned Alien project is a singular source of that frustration. As concept art has been released in the years since its cancellation, it's become clear that it was going to render everything after Alien 3 non-canonical and bring back both Sigourney Weaver and Michael Biehn. As more information has come to light, it's continually gutted fans. If the movie, or even Blomkamp's take on RoboCop, had been produced, it might have eased the sting of the long wait for District 10. Instead, fans are waiting for Gran Turismo to finish its lap around the track to see if Blomkamp is finally ready and able to return to familiar territory. But with critics mixed with Sony's big-budget ad for their video game franchise, it may take a big boost from fans and friends to get him there. This uncertainty was recently compounded when, during an interview with The Hollywood Reporter in August of 2023, Blomkamp claimed, "I don't know if it's getting made or not. I don't know if I even want to make that right now. But at some point down the line, it'll probably get made."